Hello everyone. In this video I'll show you how to use the Aquarelle Watercolor painting Photoshop action. But before we get started, let's view a few examples. The Aquarelle Watercolor painting Photoshop action is a pretty straightforward Photoshop action with which you simply need to open your image and run the action. So this is your main image and you load it up in Photoshop and run the action and you'll get something like this. So in this Photoshop action I've tried to emulate the real hand-painted watercolor look with the brush strokes, the watercolor soak, the watercolor edges, and many more. You can also create custom frames like this one to create an unfinished watercolor look, and I'll cover these steps in detail when I'll be running the action and going through the different elements which are generated in the process. So here is another example. So this is the main image, and running the action we get something like this. Every element is highly customizable and you can turn it to anything that you feel like. You can also create prints and gift them to families and friends. This is a mock-up just to show what you can do with the finished image. This action also runs with isolated image, like this is a PNG, so the background is removed and only the main subject is present here. And after you run the action, you'll get something like this. So I feel this is very useful when creating your own logo or business cards or even watercolor elements which you can use in posters or different graphic templates. So this is an example. This is a logo in gray color, and after running the action we get something like this. There is another example. You also get the option to enable realistic pencil lines like this, just an underpainting or pencil sketch below the watercolor layer. We'll quickly browse through some of the images here. Okay, let's get started. So I'll open Photoshop and choose one of the image. I'll take this image. I'll drop it here in Photoshop, and now I need to open my main files. To do that, you can select File, Open, and navigate to your main download folder. It should be something like this, and then there should be a folder called Install Files inside. So click it and you'll see there are 3 files: the action file, the brush, and the pattern file. Select all of them and select Open. So those 3 files are now loaded into Photoshop. Now you need to bring up your Actions panel. To do that, go to Window, Actions, and here you can see all the actions have been loaded up. So this is the main action, and these are just auxiliary extra action just to speed up your process. We'll cover this in detail once we run this thing. Just to confirm if our brushes are loaded properly, you can select your brush tool, select this drop down menu, and here you can see Aquarelle painting brushes. And just to make sure the patterns are also there, go to Edit, Presets, Preset Manager, select patterns from this drop down menu, and here are the watercolor painting patterns. As you can see, this is watercolor texture 2, and there are the other patterns. Okay. Now a few very important things. One is regarding the image size. The action works well within images of size around 1500 pixels to 5000 pixels. So I would recommend these sizes to get the most beautiful results out of this action. So I'll change this image size, go to image size, and so it's more or less fine, but I'll just tone it down a bit. I'll keep it like this one. Well, now is one of the most important part. If you're using Photoshop CC 2018 and above, then you do not need to do this brush setting that I'll do right now. But if you have a lower version of Photoshop, then you must do this. Select your brush tool and then increase the opacity all the way up to 100% and also increase the flow to 100%, and the blending mode should be normal. These settings must be like this, the opacity and the flow to 100% for this action to work correctly. And along with the brush, also select your art history brush tool. You can hold click and select art history brush tool from here. And also for this one, increase the opacity to 100%. Make sure the opacities are all set to 100%. Along with that, click this flyout menu and select panel options, and make sure add copy to copied layers in groups is checked, and also use default masks on fill layers is checked. You can go through all these steps that I mentioned here in the help file that is provided with the package. Okay, so with that done, let's run the action. I have my image loaded, I have my brush opacity to 100%, flow to 100%, I have my art history brush opacity to 100%, and now I'll select this main watercolor painting action and I'll select play. It'll take some time for the action to finish processing. We'll fast forward from here and get back when it's done. Okay, the action has finished processing, and I'll quickly show you the effect that we'll get straight out of the box without doing further customization. So here's the final result with watercolor edges, watercolor soak, nice watercolor texture, and wet watercolor brush strokes. Nice. Now I'll break the video into different parts. Like right now, I'll show you the basic customization tips that you can follow to take this composition to a whole new level in very few steps. Next, I'll go through all these elements which are generated here one by one, and then I'll show you how to use this on isolated subjects like the scooter image that I was showing you earlier in the examples and what it gives. And then in the last part, I'll show you how you can run this on a logo like the one that I was showing in an example, and how you can customize your own business card or a logo. So you can pause the video, or you can leave at any moment of the video that you feel that you have got the tips necessary to run this action. So let's get started. So I'll go over this in a brief moment. First, what you can do just right now is turn these experimental frames. So these are experimental frames. There are a couple of frames over here. So it might not look good just out of the box. These are provided as an experimental purpose, but you can always turn them on and see how it looks. This one looks nice for this picture, but this might not be the case for other images. But you can hide this one and turn this layer on and select the layer mask and paint here with black to create your own frame. So select any one of the brush that are given in this brush pack. I'll select this 4 brush. I'll use the right square bracket keys on the keyboard to increase the size. I'll switch to color black and then I'll start painting. So here you can see that you can use this brush and you have the whole manual control over what frame you create. Great. So I'll turn on the default mask for the time being, and here there are different masks which you can customize and see how it looks. Great. Next you have the pencil sketch. You can toggle this on and off, and the pencil sketch you can control also the opacity of this group. Then you have some soaking, that is, you can adjust the opacity and create some abstract watercolor soak on the image. Then you have drops. You can hide these drops and you can select this custom drops layer. You can select the layer mask. You can take one of the drops brush, I'll take the number 2 brush, and you can paint with color white like this to create your custom drops. And here you have different color settings that you can turn on, like darken color, lighten color, reduce white, desaturate, and over here you have 20 color effects that you can toggle on and off. So these are the basic effects that you can just toggle on and off right out of the box. And now I'll go in depth in all these layers which are created here. So first is the original image. This is your base image. Then you have the base color, just a background filler layer, nothing much. So here we have the base watercolor image, and this creates the bulk of the image. So here we have a soak base painting. You can turn it on and off. I'll just zoom in a bit so that you can understand the effect clearly. So you can see it's creating nice watercolor edges like this one. You can also control here. You can also adjust this watercolor edge opacity, and you can also adjust opacity of this layer. This will give a abstract color stroke on the entire image. Next we have shift colors and smooth paint texture. So you can increase the opacity of these layers, and as you can see, it's reducing the watercolor texture. And then you have shift color. You can change the opacity to affect the color luminosity. Then we have pencil sketch. You can toggle on and off, or you can control the visibility of individual layers. Then we have the watercolor edge group. Here also you can increase or decrease the opacity of the watercolor edge, as you can see. Next we have soak tone specific. So here you have soak on lighter color and soak on darker color. So if you want to hide this, as you can see, toggling this layer will hide the soak on darker colors with lighter colors, and this will control the visibility of colors on lighter areas like the white on this architecture. You can also paint on the layer mask with black or white to show different parts of this layer. So this was the core watercolor element, and then we have the frames. Like I was mentioning previously, here are different kind of experimental frames that you can try and play with. Or you can enable this custom frame and paint with black. Take one of the brush from here. I'll take this number 8 brush and I'll zoom out and decrease the brush size, and you can create beautiful frames like this. Then we have the default drops. You can toggle the visibility of individual drops, or you can paint here with white on this custom drops to create your very own drops. Then we have texture toning group. Here we have 2 layers. One is the default texture toning layer. It's better to keep it as it is. And then we have more texture toning. You can toggle the visibility. As you can see, it's creating or darkening this watercolor texture here. You can also adjust the opacity if you want, but I'd prefer to keep it at 15%. Then we have our default toning. It's better to keep the layers as it is that are inside this group, but you can adjust the opacity of this group as a whole. As you can see, it's affecting the entire color tone of this final composition. I'll keep it to 88%. And then we have darken color, lighten color, reduce black, reduce white, saturate color, and desaturate color. Then we have shift colors. You can expand the group and you can toggle the visibility. These will control the tonal adjustments of individual colors like red, magenta, yellow, green, sand and blue. Next we have 20 color effects. These are pretty simple. You can just turn the visibility on and off to affect the overall image. Then we have paper texture. You can toggle these layers again on and off and add a watercolor paper texture over the entire image. Then we have overall adjustments. These are pretty much basic adjustments like brightness. You can double click and change the contrast or brightness, or their color balance, hue, saturation, curves, overall gradient map. You can double click to change, and overall color fill. Okay, now I'll show you what this extra actions do. So this one is for isolated objects. So what this one essentially does is it gets rid of all extra watercolor elements like splatters and soaks and everything, and creates a nice effect for your isolated subject. So there's no different result that you will see in this image because it's a full canvas image. But I can run this one and this won't do pretty much anything on this image, but I'll show you what it does on the scooter image, which I'll run in a few moments. Next we have full canvas. It reverts what we did for this isolated object. Then we have enable pencil sketch. This pretty much toggles the pencil sketch. So everything what is there in these extractions, you can control them manually via this layers and groups over here. So brighten up image will lighten up the tone, darken up will darken the tone, and HDR tone will try to balance out colors. So this is what the layers, the groups, and the actions do. So you can stop the video here and go ahead and play with these different elements here, but you can stick around and I'll run this action on another image. So let's bring up our second image, which is a PNG image. And as you can see, it has transparent background and it has an isolated subject, by which I mean to say is the subject is different from the background. This is pretty much very useful when you are creating some mockups or watercolor elements for your product. So let's select the main action and hit play. I'll fast forward from here and get back when it's done. Okay, so this is the effect on this image. And as you can see, since the background was white, there are pretty unnecessary soaks into the background image. So for this one, this action will come handy for isolated objects. You can select this and run this, and this will get rid of all the additional soaks. You can control this manually via these layers and groups, but this action is here to speed up your process. So all the layers and groups are pretty much the same, like the one that I showed in the previous one. Okay. So now I'll show you how you can run this action on some textile logos like this, and you can create your own business card. So let's add a gradient over here so that we have a variety other than this gray color. Now let's run the action. Okay, so I'll again run this for isolated objects action and get rid of unintentional soaks and blurs. So with that out of the way, I can select this custom drops and add some small drops like this. And I'll turn this paper texture layer on, and you can print this out if you want to create a business card out of it. So I hope with this different implementation you get some ideas how you can use this Aquarelle Watercolor Photoshop action. And that's it pretty much with the action. I hope you like this one. I'll see you in the next one. Till then, stay creative.